begin, let's go ahead and start with our introductions, and then we will get an idea whether we have a quorum or not in terms of our membership. My name is Karen Russell, and I am the Mission Valley SELPA Director, and I welcome everyone here this morning. Bobby, do you mind introducing yourself next?
My name is Bobby Platt, and I am the SELPA Secretary.
My name is Larry Sweeney, and I'm the board member from Fremont.
CJ Kamick, Superintendent, Fremont Unified School District.
John Thompson, Superintendent of New Haven Unified School District.
Fran English, Director of Special Education for Fremont Unified School District.
Sarah Kepler, Special Director for New Haven Unified.
Nicole Pierce, Assistant Superintendent of Ed Services for Newark Unified, currently filling in for the role of Director of SPED, but also want to welcome in Olivia Rangel, who will be officially taking over as of July 18th. Not that I'm counting down the days at 8 a.m. 1 a.m.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia Rankle. Nice to meet everyone or see everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the CAC Chair, Daisha Gardner. Nice to see you guys all again.
Okay, so it looks like right now we have 4 of our 5 members required for a quorum. That would be Larry Sweeney, John, CJ, and Nicole representing Mark Triplett. Let's go ahead and continue our introductions, and we may all have additional board members join us. Oh, hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Everybody.
Great. So in terms of our acknowledgements, number 1, I would like to say thank you, everyone, in terms of your patience and flexibility. And I am sorry for us going in person and out of person and now back via Zoom. It's been a very interesting time, as each of you can relate to, with different outbreaks here and there. And so this ended up being obviously our safest way, and everyone can participate as well. Secondly, just to tag on to what Nicole said, I thoroughly welcome Olivia as part of the Mission Valley in her new role as Director of Special Ed for Newark. That'll be wonderful, very exciting, and really great to have that degree of leadership back in the spot, and particularly with someone who is near and dear to Newark and also with special ed as her background. Nicole, is there, or excuse me, Olivia, is there anything else that you would like to add this morning as your first regional policy board?
No, just I'm really excited to fill this role in a district that I love. And then I'm excited to have you all here as a support to me. I've worked with many of you for many years, so I appreciate being here.
Wonderful. I will just quickly ask both Mark Triplett and John Thompson if they know anything regarding their board members' attendance.
I do not. I'm happy to check with them though.
Yeah, Sarah V was going to come, but I don't know where she is. I'll text her.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I actually texted Lori. Is she on vacation?
Lori is yes, she's on vacation and out of the area.
Okay. Then I would appreciate that. Thank you.
There are a number of items on today's agenda, and in addition to our usual kinds of budget presentations, we have the annual service plan and the annual budget plan, and those definitely need to be approved by our board, so hopefully we'll have a 5th member come in. I think in the meantime, what I would like to do is, Robbie, since we don't have a quorum, I'm going to skip item number 2, which is approving the minutes from our last 2 regional policy board meetings. And Robbie, if you don't mind addressing number 3, which is the SELPA units administrative final operating budget.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I apologize. My camera is not working somehow. It's not working for Zoom, but it's working for Google Meetings. So what I have for you is the um, almost final administrative unit for fiscal year 21-22. So and for us, for the carryover, we have $71,000. That's 71,000 for the board approval on November of 2021. Decided the board policy, the board approved transferring that money to the SELPA members. So the breakdown is on almost at the bottom where it says carryover from prior year. FUSD received $48 million. New Haven got 14 or almost 15,000. Newark got around $8,000. So that is the carryover from the prior year. The revenue allocation is still an estimate because of we are still waiting for California Department of Education certification of the P2 apportionment. So once that is finalized on the P2 and is posted in CD website, this number is going to change. So on the expenditure side, we have the SELPA director, the support, and the accounting directors, their salary and benefits. There's minor changes on the budget side on that one. A few dollars I need to move in because we changed the rates for the burdens mid-year. We have administrative expenses and other expenses that we have cost out. And I think the major one was the one that was previously approved was this I forgot what CCS means, the Glancter ELC night custodian that was approved on March 29 of 2022. That's around $10,350 that the board approved. Then of course our total expenditures is $258,000. Actual expenses and encumbrance is 216 or 217,000, with the remaining balance of $42,000 unspent. Administration fee that the SELPA AU needs to pay our Fremont Unified School District is around $40,000, and the reserve is $8,000 or almost $9,000. So if everything goes through, I do want to let you know the admin fee is just based on actual expenditures. So if we spent less, then we would have more balance available to be spent. And that available balance of almost $42,000 would be the carryover to next year. And of course, the board can again decide if they want to distribute that to the SELPA members. And that ends this report.
Thank you, Robbie. Just as a side note, I did receive an additional request for funding for transportation with the Special Olympics event. So that will also need to be debited out of this budget.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Robbie. And I will go back to.
Oh, any questions on the report?
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to have to wait then until we get a quorum before we can vote on that. But then we can go into item number 4, which is the Mission Valley SELPA allocation. Okay. So this, Robbie, is theoretically the final projection for the 21-22 school year.
Actually, still no, Karen. So
Okay,
we are still waiting for the P2 apportionment certification from CDE. Usually that happens on the first week of July. So I'm hoping it's going to happen again during that time. So this is still a projection. I'm not sure if you're seeing it in your screen or in your handout, but somehow it's not showing on mine screen. Karen,
Robbie, right?
I think I'm having some technical difficulties.
Right now.
Are you there, Robbie?
Sorry, I was
Present?
having some technical difficulties. I'm not sure if it is just me.
No, I don't think it's just you.
Okay.
I think Karen might be frozen as well.
Yeah.
Yes, she is, yeah.
Yes, I'm having trouble with the internet here at the district as well.
Mhm. Yeah, me too here at home.
Should I continue?
We can't see well, I guess we can individually look at the report, Robbie, if
Bobby just went over to see if Karen can log out and log back. Oh, is she the host, Sarah? Oh, okay. So if she logs out, we all end, right? Okay. Hold on a second. Let's see what happens.
You can make somebody else the host.
should we text her?
Right, but Karen has to make somebody else the host. Does
Yeah.
anybody know how to do that? I mean, I
right.
think the host has to do it.
Yeah, she's right next
Yeah.
to me. I'll go.
Or is
Go.
Bobby the host? I don't know.
You can go into the participants list and then hover over somebody's name and click more, and you can generally make them the host that way.
Because Karen's gonna try to log out and log back in. She can't come back.
But
Bobby,
Bobby,
she's the host. Oh, sorry, go, Fran.
oh, I'm sorry. Is Karen the host or are you?
Karen.
Okay, if she logs out, I think.
The chat says Fran is the host now.
So hold on just one moment. I'm going to move my computer over to Karen and then I'll just sit in the room with her.
Sorry about that, guys. Are we back in then? Okay, and Robbie, have you
Yes.
had a chance then to go through the projected operating budget?
Yes, we did that one first, and then we're doing the 21-22 revised projection,
Great.
which is, I think, section 4. What section?
Okay.
We are on number 6. Oh, no. Number 4.
Working.
So I'm going to continue, ma'am.
Okay, that sounds good. Please do.
Okay. So the 21-22 Mission Valley SELPA allocation is the revised projection. The final one would come out until the CDE, California Department of Ed, P2 apportionment certification is released, which is usually happens in early July, and this would be updated with that number. And also, I will be waiting for the final attendance report, the P annual, from the SELPA members, because some of the ADA are being funded with the annual attendance numbers. So one thing that happened from the previous report from March is the ADA is now based on P2 attendance report that I received from the SELPA members, and also the special ed property tax was updated because we received a projection from Alameda County Office of Ed last June 3. So special ed property tax decrease. Now it doesn't mean that our apportionment would decrease. It just means that if property tax is not able to pick up the funding, then the state aid for AB 602 special ed would pick up the rest of it. So it's not that we're going to lose funding. Loss of funding would be loss in ADA. So, but I do want to make sure that I let you know, for special ed AB 602, the governor already for this year, or I think for the past 2 years, we are being funded by the highest ADA from the past, from current year, last year, or previous year, and the second previous year. So it's the highest of the 3. So I think that is the same thing that they are planning to do on the regular LCFF funding allocation. But for special ed, we're already in that practice or policy. Now, for fiscal year 21-22, ADA went down significantly for all SELPA members. And I don't have it by school, but the total decrease from last year, or basically 1920 ADA because 2021 is the same funding as 1920. The change was for the SELPA, the entire SELPA is 3,305.23 ADA. That's a big decrease. So we are not affected this year in 21-22 because we are being funded with the highest, which is last year, or we considered as 1920 ADA. So, but if our ADA doesn't improve in 23-24, or it goes down from this year, then we would take the hit of the 3,388. So that is a big, significant change for the 23-24. So that is on the verbiage, and then the funding exhibit. This is the same exhibit. We are, if you would see on section A of what our funding is. So SELPA current year is around 46.6 or 46 or 47,000 ADA. Prior year was 49 or almost 50,000 ADA. And the second prior year was 50,000, the same amount, because 2021, we were in pandemic. And so CDE allowed that the 1920 ADA is going to be the 2021 ADA. So you would see that. Then section B is just a calculation. We're still going to get $35 million, but if our local property tax on section C, this was before around $3 million, 3.4 I believe, and now it's around $3 million. But still, so the state aid funding would be 32.7 or $32.8 million. And then the rest is the breakdown. So on the next page, which is the Apple distribution exhibit, this is the allocation. So if you're going to look at section line number 5, after that, there's a AB 602 total. 24.2 million is going to go Fremont. That includes COIL, which is the charter school in Fremont. New Haven is almost 7 million, and Newark is $3.5 million. Then we have the property tax. So basically that AB 602 is a state aid. And then the property tax, 2.9 million total all. And it shows the different calculation for the 3 district members. Number 7 and 8 are new grants. And based on the grant, we have to set aside money for private school. And also, if we are disproportionate, we have to set aside for CSAs 15%. So this one is a new grant for this year, and it's a one-time grant based on CDE. Then 9, 10, or up to from 9 to 22 are the other federal and state grants that we received. And of course, number 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 22 are all in Fremont Unified School District, or the AU, for those particular grants that serves all 3 SELPA members. And that is the revised 21-22 allocation and distribution. Any questions?
I have a question. I see that you listed CSAs, but it says 0. Is that something that we would update next time, or? Help me understand that.
On which one?
Line item. It's in a subset of,
No, you do have it.
seven. I'm looking at the 7 versus the 9.
So the 7 is, this is the federal idea, the ARP,
Yeah,
not the actual regular local assistance. So 7 and 9 are different, and you do have you should be allocating something for CSAs for New Haven. Newark is 0.
we are, but see how in line 7 where it says resource 3307, it says 0? Help me understand that. Is that because we don't pull out of those funds? We only pull out of the local assistant grant?
So you are on number 7. Don't you see 61?
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. Maybe I'm looking at this.
Yeah, I think you are
I'm looking at
the
22, 23. That's the
23.
problem. Got
Yeah.
it. My apologies, Robbie.
Okay. So that is my report on agenda item number 4.
And then Robbie, since we do have a quorum now, is there a motion to approve agenda item number 4, which is the 21-22 Mission Valley SELPA allocation?
This is Larry, so moved.
Great. Is there a second?
Second, Mark Triplett.
Thank you, Mark. All right. All those in favor of approving the item number 4, the Mission Valley SELPA allocation, please indicate with a yes.
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 Okay, so we have yes for, that would be Larry, CJ, John, Mark, and Alicia.
Correct.
Great.
Thank you for the
Yeah, thank
pronunciation.
you. And if I can also ask our group to please go back to our item number 2, which are the minutes from our January Regional Policy Board meeting and the minutes of the March meeting. And is there a, okay, we'll do those separately. The first one for the January minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
This is CJ, so moved.
Thank you, CJ. And a second?
Second.
I think I heard Alicia.
Newark seconds in
Newark second.
tandem.
Great, okay, thank you. So there's a motion on the table to approve the minutes, the Regional Policy Board minutes of January 2022. All those in favor, please indicate by aye.
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 Right, are there any nays? Any abstentions? All right, and then the minutes are approved for the January meeting. Second item then to approve the minutes of the March 29th Regional Policy Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and we have a second there.
EJ.
Thank you. Okay, Larry and CJ. And then do we have all those in favors, please indicate by aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions? All right, and the motion approves. We are still having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm going to have Bobby help me here. Bobby, we're going to share your screen and pull up the agenda here. So I'm going to do share screen, and then if I go into here, and can you pull up the Regional Policy Board from there? Let's see, let's pull this down. It would just be somewhere in there. Is everyone able to see the agenda now on here as well as on their own computers? All right.
Yes.
All right, so we have approved the minutes and we've approved item number 4, the self-allocation, and we should go back and approve item number 3, which is the Mission Valley SELPA Administrative Unit Final Operating Budget. Do I have a motion to approve the final operating budget?
So
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Mark Triplett.
Thank you, Mark, and a second.
Second.
Thank you. And that was, all those in favor, please indicate by aye.
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 Any opposed or any abstentions? Okay, then the operating budget for the SELPA is approved. All right, so now we have the Mission Valley Administrative Unit operating budget for the 22-23, and this is our proposed budget. Robbie, can you lead us through this, please?
Yes, ma'am. So while Karen is putting the top on the screen, so here it is. So just like what Karen said, this is our 22-23 projected AU administrative unit operating budget. Based on our projection, our revenue, there's no carryover yet because 21-22 is still going on. Revenue allocation for next year is $294,000. And we have our operating budget for the administration, the SELPA director, the clerical support, and the accounting director. Their stipends and their benefits was updated. It is lesser than previous year, even though because stipends is not purse and stirs are not deducted from it. So so just want to let everybody know about that one. So almost the same thing as what we budgeted in the past. The only difference is our the projection for the custodial that was only one-time approval, so it is not part of this projection for 22-23. So anything that we did not budgeted, it is sitting at other operating expenditures unallocated, so around $73,000. So if that doesn't get allocated, the possibility is that that amount would be carried forward to the 23-24 fiscal year. And then our normal reservation, 8% admin. Again, that is based on after the year is over, I multiply the total expenditures, actual expenditures times the 8%, and that would be the admin fee. And then, of course, the reserve of 1% for the budget.
Okay.
That ends my presentation on the 22-23 AU budget, projected budget.
I see a couple of issues. Number one, we should probably discuss the issue of custodial services at Glankler, because I would anticipate that the need for those additional custodial services is not going to be changing, at least certainly not in the first half of the next school year. And then I would keep it open to any other questions or input from our directors or any of the other members of our group today.
I could speak a little bit to that. We do have a significant number of students who use CCS services. We are required to host them, is my understanding. Is that correct, Karen?
The SELPA is required to provide a place for California Children's Services. That is correct.
Yes. So in light of the expansion of our Rick's preschool, I believe we are definitely going to need ongoing custodial support for the CCS program. It is a very large room and does require sanitation regularly. So I'm just putting that out there for the policy board to consider continuing that support.
So Robbie, is it possible to add in that line item from last year to include that for the 21 or for the 22-23 school year?
Yeah, so for the Glankler custodian, we would budget for the same dollar amount.
At this point, I would say yes, and then if we need to amend that amount, that can be done at a mid-year regional policy board meeting. And so at this point, that amount would come out of the other operating expenditures that have yet to be unallocated, so out of the 73,000.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing, when I was speaking with the directors, oh, is there any discussion on that item? Okay. The other item that came up is when I was speaking with the directors, and I hadn't had a chance to speak with Nicole or Olivia, but the directors definitely see a need next year, particularly for themselves as well as their program specialist ADs for pursuing additional training, which may include legal training, dispute resolution training, other kinds of things related to the provision of special ed services. And so there was a consideration to increase the travel and conference budget so that they could send their staff to conferences using funds from this SELPA budget. Fran or Sarah, is there anything that you would want to add to that?
Just that with the cost of living increases, our independent assessors have had to raise their rates. So realistically, that's recommended to look at that very carefully.
Yeah, I would agree. When I'm looking at this budget, we haven't done conferences for a long time. And so I'm wondering if that budget is sufficient to that. We often have carryover, so maybe it's not, but it's been at least 2 years since we've done conferences. So I'm not sure if we have a current amount that's reasonable for that or if that's gone up.
So just looking at the prior year, 21-22, there's still a remaining $6,000 that we have not spent for travel and conferences.
Okay. We certainly also will continue to use our ADR grants specifically for travel and conference attendance and training for staff, part of that. Is there a recommendation from any of the directors regarding an amount by which they would want to increase the travel and conference budget, if that's, or do we feel that that 6,000 that we can then apply for staff to use is sufficient? Okay, so let's then keep the budget as it exists right now. And then when we have the amounts from the other operating expenditures, certainly if we have something coming up, we could bring it to regional policy board for specific approval if it exceeds that 6,000. So now the only addendum to this projected budget for our 22-23 year is going to be the including of the amount to Glankler to cover custodial services for the operation of California Children's Services program.
That's what I have on my record, on my notes.
Great. Any other discussion or input on that? All right, then could we have exactly, thank you, Bobby, a motion to approve the this budget for the 22-23 school year?
This is Larry. I move to approve.
Thank you, Larry. Is there a second?
This is Mark. I second.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor, please indicate by aye.
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 Do we have any nays? All right, and any abstentions? Great, thank you. Then we have the Regional Policy Board, the administrative projected operating budget for the 22-23 school year. All right, and then we also on item number 6 is the Mission Valley SELPA allocation for 22-23. And Robbie, can you again please lead us through this?
Yes, ma'am. So this is our projection for 22-23 SELPA allocation. Our assumption and projection that we use are, I know this is dated May 17, but this is after the May revise. And we are using, the reason why it is dated May 17 is it was drafted at that time because of the SELPA members need to project for their 22-23 SELPA budget. So I prepared it at that time, but hasn't been never went to the RPB and the Director of Special Ed. So the rates that we used for this is 6.56% COLA, just like what it was said on the May revise. The ADA is projected on the highest of the 3 years of the projection for ADA for the SELPA that I received from the district fiscal directors. The proration factor is still considered 0, meaning there's no deficit spending, or not deficit spending, but deficit factor, the old terminology. Special ed education property tax. When I prepared this, I have not received the P2 report from ACUE, so I was using the January P1 allocation for the property tax. Then all of the federal, state, and local grants was based on the actual 21-22 grants coming from CDE. And then some of the grants are like early intervention, ADR resolution, workability are budgeted based on, again, prior year, and it is housed in Fremont Unified as the AAU and serving all of the 3 SELPA members. So the next page is the funding exhibit. So the funding exhibit is how we are calculating how much revenue are we going to receive for the entire SELPA, for Mission Valley SELPA. So right now, we're going to be funded by the 1920 ADA. So just like I mentioned earlier, there's no ADA in 2021 because we were all in remote instruction. So we are projecting 49 or almost 50,000 ADA for this. Now, just like I also mentioned earlier, is that if 22-23 doesn't go well for all of us, or 23-24, our ADA doesn't get better, then we would be hit by the 3,000 ADA loss, which we would be funded by the projected, or we would be at 46,000 ADA funding in 23-24. Worst case scenario. So base grant, you would see the COLA is at 6.56%. And then on section B, the base, we are projecting that we would be funded by $761.90 per ADA. So last year, 21-22, forgot to mention this, is in 21-22 was the first time that we were funded at $715 per ADA. Previously, it should have been just $600 per ADA. But last year, the governor put money on special ed. We are funded by $715 per ADA, and plus COLA, we are funded at $761 per ADA. So our adjusted base overall for for special ed is $38 million, less the 3.6 million coming for special ed property tax. We're going to get state aid at $34 million. And then 3.5 million is coming from property tax. Our LCI or low incidence, we have to, our apportionment is $1 million. We have to budget that amount for low incidence. And so section I is just a summary of how much money are we going to get for AB 602 less the property tax. So, so we're getting money for program, what is PS? Program specialists and regionalized services, low incidence and out of home care. So that around $36.5 million. And then the next page or the next few pages, the last 2 pages, is the distribution exhibit to the SELPA members. Fremont, New Haven, and Newark, and this is the allocation. AB 602, $25.3 million is Fremont, 7.5 million is New Haven, and Newark is 3.7 million without the special ed property tax. And we get the special ed property tax. One thing that I wanted to make sure for the SELPA members, on line number 3 for low incidence, this is the amount of money that you should be budgeting for low incidence. So, I've noticed for us in Fremont here, we budgeted a little bit less on the dollar amount, but I wanted to make sure that that is true for everybody, that they should be matching that for low incidence expenditures.
And again, Robbie, just to add, low incidence is going to be specifically for students who are deaf, blind, or orthopedically impaired, and then related materials, equipment, and services.
So line number 7, line number 8, it is 0 because when I researched it in CDE website, they were considered one-time funding. So so that's why it's both of these grants are 0 for 22-23. Then number 9, local assistance. My understanding is, I believe that Fremont and New Haven are still need to allocate for CSAs. So, and Newark is does not have to. Same thing as federal preschool, 15% for CSAs. Again, I also wanted to make sure that the allocation for CSAs, we have 2 years and 3 months, please correct me if I'm wrong, to spend the money. If we do not spend the money, we have to return the money to CDE. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that. So any money for CSAs not spent after the allocated or allowed time would have to go back to the state.
So Robbie is correct. Once again, that's 15% of the special ed budget for that district has to be allocated for CSAs, and typically those funds are going to be spent back in the general education program, addressing the reasons that that district is disproportionate in the particular area that is an issue for the district. So for example, Fremont has close to $1 million to spend, 976,000. And I know that Fran and led their counterparts at CDE to make sure that that entire amount has been budgeted for and expended within that 27-month time frame.
So to continue on the last page, so lines 11 to 22 are all projection based on 21-22 grants that we've received. And again, line 13 to line 18, even though 18 is 0, are sitting at the Fremont Unified School District AU account serving the 3 SELPA members. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Robbie, for your comprehensive report. Are there any questions or notes for clarification for the Mission Valley SELPA 22-23 projected allocation? Okay. Then we will go ahead. Let me go back here. Do I have a motion to approve the 22-23 Mission Valley SELPA allocation?
This is Larry. I move to approve.
Thank you, Larry. And is there a second?
This is Mark. I second.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor of approving the 22-23 Mission Valley SELPA allocation, please indicate by aye.
Aye.
I,
Any nays? Any abstentions? All right, then we have the Mission Valley 22-23 SELPA allocation approved. And that again was Larry making the motion and Mark seconding, and it was unanimously approved. Okay. The next 2 items, and actually I'm going to have, I know, Larry, you have a hard stop, so let's at 10. So let's go through these. If we could go through the budget plan, Robbie, can you quickly bring us through the budget plan?
Yes. So the budget plan, it consists of the funding sources and the expenditures that is projected for fiscal year 22-23. And our budget plan has to be approved prior to June 30th, just like any other budget for next year. So all of the numbers that we have here are, or the source document is the one that we just, or I just reported, or and you just approved, the 22-23 allocation. The only difference is that it does not show on the one that we just reported is the other projected revenue. The other projected revenue is the bulk of this is the contribution to special ed. And you would see that on D2. So D2 other revenue is composed of the workability grant of $500,000 and the contribution by all 3 SELPA members, by 3 districts to the special ed program, $102 or $103 million. So those data, that number came from the 3 SELPA members and letting me know how much that their contribution would be. But our assembly bill, all of these revenue sources are based on that allocation for 22-23. So that is for table 1. Table 2 is the total expenditures. So this is the projected expenditures that I received from 3 SELPA members of how much they're going to be spending their funds for special ed. For special ed.
As
So
we
a
can
tot-
see, basically between certificated and classified, that's 50% of the entire allocation going to salaries.
Yes,
And when we include benefits, it's over 50%.
yes, ma'am. So, and then any expenditures that are in object code 7,000, this is the indirect cost, and 3 district members have different indirect costs. So I just wanted to let you know that that is indirect cost that is budgeted. And table 3 is just another look at how the revenue sources are being divided. State special ed, federal revenue, and then local contribution.
So Robbie, on table 3, what we're looking at is between state and federal dollars. It's about 52 million. And then still all 3 districts require another 100 million to be able, from the general fund, to cover the cost of special education.
That is true. That's another way of looking at it, ma'am. Yes, that's right. And how we are allocating those revenues are either based on ADA or based on pupil count. And you would see that on D9 that I mentioned there. Table 4 was different from the prior year annual budget plan. So now they're just talking about the regionalized operating budget, which for me, I understand it as the AU operating budget. So this is the total budget that we are projecting for the AU, $293,000. And it is sorted by the different object codes. Table 5 are just additional information of how much are we projecting for supplemental aids, services, and that's around 1.7 million. And how much is projected for the low incidence disabilities? That's the $1 million that I mentioned earlier also that needs to be budgeted by the SELPA members. And that is one part of the annual budget plan. And then the second part, which is all of the attachment, is that is a summary by the SELPA members, by SELPA. Now, this section with attachment is how it was divided, or you would notice in your screen, it's the contact person, and then the rest of the pages is how are those revenues and how are those expenditures divided or allocated to the 3 SELPA members. And so the first part, section D, and this part, which is, again, I forgot, section attachments, is just the more detail of section D. Of how are they planning to spend the money, or how the revenue is allocated by the SELPA members, or to the SELPA members, how the expenditures are divided, or how the SELPA members are spending their money, and that kind of a thing.
So a good example of what Robbie is saying on attachment 2, it breaks it down between the 3 districts. And you can see the AB 602 state aid, 25 million to Fremont, 7 million to New Haven, 3.7 million to Newark. And again, based on those, the ADA from those districts. Where you do have say the Part C infant program, since Fremont is the administrative unit for that program, all of those funds are ceded to Fremont Unified to serve all students from all 3 districts. Robbie, is there anything else that you wanted to add in terms of the details of pages 11 through 18?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Okay. Do we have any questions right now on our annual service budget? This was also presented as a public hearing this morning between 8 to 9, and we had no other input from the public. Do we have a motion to approve the local plan for the 22-23 school year for the Mission Valley SELPA?
This is Mark, so moved.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have a second?
CJ, second.
Thank you, CJ. All those in favor, please indicate by aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Any abstentions? All right, thank you, Regional Policy Board. Our annual budget plan has been approved for the 22-23 school year. The next that we need to approve is the annual service plan. And I do want to take a moment to thank Robbie. As you can see from the 5 documents that he just presented. He has been doing a tremendous amount of work in terms of putting together these budgets related to the SELPA.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Robbie. So for the local plan and this particular, the annual service budget, what you will see within here are all the services that are provided through the resident districts, Newark, New Haven, and Fremont. And it begins with specialized academic instruction. And it goes through, as you probably have already reviewed, 38 pages of what services are currently offered within the 3 districts. This is a plan that these services will be offered through the course of the next school year and include everything from when we started with specialized academic services to occupational therapy, physical therapy. And these are all the services that are required for us to offer to services through federal law. Any questions or comments regarding the services on the annual service plan? Directors, do you have anything to add in terms of the services?
Thanks for completing this, Karen.
Okay. And I think as a matter, it's very interesting to look through this list to actually see all the things that special education is required to provide for our students. Okay. So unless there are any other questions or discussion, I'd like to know if there is a motion to approve our annual service budget for the annual service plan for the 22-23 school year.
I move to approve the plan.
And
That's
that-
Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Is there a second?
This is John. I'll second.
Thank you, John. All those in favor then of approving, please indicate by aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you. Then our annual service plan is approved for the 22-23 school year. Our next 2 items, item number 9 and item number 10. Fremont is the administrative unit currently for the Transition Partnership Program as well as the infant program, which means when the state gives the budget to our SELPA, those monies directly go to Fremont, and Fremont then administers the plan for the 3 districts. The SELPA does not have the capacity to do the hiring, the evaluation, the training, employing those individuals. So Fremont takes over that and then provides the services. This year, we had a little bit of a change in the infant program. Instead of partnering with California School for the Deaf, Fremont went ahead and took over all aspects related to intake and then would partner with CSD once the referral has been obtained. The Transition Partnership Program has been continuing to run consistently and successfully under the direction of Carly Kim as well as Lorraine Niera. So what the new MOUs look like once you open them is basically they are exactly the same as they had been previously written, with the exception is now the term of the MOU runs from July 1st, 2022 through to July 30th, 2025. So a 3-year term now on the memorandum of understanding for both the Transition Partnership Program as well as the infant program. Everything in terms of roles and responsibilities of the service provider, as well as the other districts, is laid out exactly as it was previously. Any questions or comments right now?
Well, I just want to say Fran and your team do a great job of both the infant program and the TPP, and I appreciate that New Haven students are included. So thank you.
I would agree with Sarah. I think the teams in both Fremont for Transition Partnership as well as the infant program under Fran's direction have done an excellent job of providing services to students in those two areas, the 0 to 3, as well as the Transition Partnership Program, which is typically our students transitioning into their post-secondary goals. And the reason that these are also up for approval right now is because they are going to be expiring. So we need to put in the new, approve the new agreements. So do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the SELPA and Fremont Unified for the Transition Partnership Program?
This is Mark, so moved.
Thank you, Mark. A second?
Larry, second.
Thank you, Larry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Do we have any nays? And do we have any abstentions? All right, the motion then is approved to approve the memorandum of understanding for our transition partnership program. Item number 10, again, if you've had a chance to, again, review that. Same thing too, the only change is the dates, and then it'll be July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025, a term of 3 years for this memorandum of understanding. Do I have a motion to approve the MOU for the infant program?
So moved, CJ.
Thank you, CJ. And do I have a second?
Mark, second.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor of approving the MOU for the Mission Valley SELPA and the Fremont Unified School District for the infant program, please indicate by aye.
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 Do we have any nays? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much, Regional Policy Board, for approving both our memorandums of understanding for the Transition Partnership Program as well as the infant program. Our next two items relate to compliance from California Department of Ed as the oversight agency, looking at all three of our districts. Newark at this point has been identified as being significantly disproportionate in the identification of Hispanic students for specific learning disability. As a result of that, Nicole has already been working with our consultants at CDE, but there is a involved process for reviewing the data within the district, coordinating with 2 other agencies to provide assistance as we look at that drilling down, reviewing of the data, and then submitting a plan for improvement. And then there is a online, it's called Stepwell process that Olivia eventually and I will work together to make sure that is completed, which will outline a plan for the district to address their significant disproportionality. So that is for Newark. Fremont and New Haven, it's a little bit more complex because at this point they have exhibited being in disproportionate status for over 3 years in a row, which has required then this 15% funds to be kicked back into general ed to address these issues related to disproportionality. I've put together or used a really good chart here regarding due dates and resources. As both Fran and Sarah can attest to, while CDE has outlined what they define as a simple process, it actually becomes very complicated with a significant degree of burden to the districts in terms of creating the plan and the action steps and the goals, and then reporting on quarterly progress, both a narrative as to what's been done, as well as related budget expenditure reports. And as Robbie alluded to, these budgets are to be spent within a 27-month period. So often a plan for 20 overlaps with the plan for 2021. and as well for the plan for 22. But this clearly does link to what are the resources and the Padlets, what are the due dates for the expenditure reports for when the LEAs have been identified. Fran or Sarah, do you want to comment most recently on your conversations with CDE or anything else you'd like to report about the status that we find ourselves in?
No, just that we're finishing our expenditures for the 2020 plan. The 2021 plan is well underway. We do have to submit an addendum because we got more funds, which is, I guess, a good problem to have, although kind of complicated in the middle of your plan. And we are in the process of beginning to write our 2022 plan because unfortunately we remain significantly disproportionate for similar areas in New Haven. And I suspect we're not alone.
Yes, we are going into our third cycle, well, actually our second cycle, and then prepping our report for the third cycle. We will wrap up the first round and the expenditure of the first round of funds. September 30th, I believe, is the drop dead date. We are in the process of developing our third plan, and we are in for the same areas of disproportionality: white students for emotional disturbance, white students for other health impairment, and Hispanic students overall and for SLD.
What's again, as our superintendents are well aware and our board members, this is a very interesting request from California Department of Ed, because what they have requested then is this 15% of funds to go back into general ed with some very targeted steps to happen there to prevent this over-identification of students for these particular categories. Like Fran said, Caucasian students for emotional disturbance or Hispanic students for specific learning disability. And I know I applaud both works, the work that has been very detailed in both districts, New Haven, including your general ed staff, and in Fremont, I know Letty's been involved as well as other directors to help support Fran, because again, the work of this is happening in the general education area. This, as we've said many times at our regional policy board meetings, is very fundamental work because it is social justice at its very root in working to not over-identify groups who should be served in the general education program, rather than being perhaps erroneously identified for special education. Any comments or questions from our group at large regarding New Haven or Fremont or Newark's monitoring status with California Department of Ed related to disproportionality? Okay. All right. On item number 13, we have our regional policy proposed meeting dates for the 22-23 school year. And reviewing those dates, is there anything that any of our team members see as possibly problematic? Once again, the dates there should be on Tuesdays from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. And that was to accommodate a request from a board member that they be in the afternoon because of work schedules. After this meeting, I will kindly ask Bobby to send calendar invites out to superintendents, board members, secretaries, as well as our special ed directors and CAC members. Next set is our director meetings through the course of the year, once a month on Thursdays. We also will have our formal community advisory committee meetings, Thursday, 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And I have met with the our Community Advisory Committee, as well as our directors, and planned our 22-23 parent ed and advocacy events. And I'm really excited this year, starting of course with our meet and greet with our directors. And our CAC group has asked each of the directors to speak on inclusion and what each district is doing related to inclusion. September 19th is a IEP 101 course for our families, all things related to the IEP and how to advocate for your student and collaborate with your district teams. We're looking for a family movie night in October. Typically that's held at Hirsch Elementary School on their field. Hopefully we'll hope for good weather. November 14th, we'll be talking about modifications and accommodations as related to with written in the IEPs and how that affects students in terms of grading and their post-secondary goals. We have Special Olympics planned for the course of the year, soccer in Fremont, and hopefully we'll be doing Special Ed Olympics in Newark this year. And then we'll also be ending the year with the track and field event in May 5th. Shout out to New Haven for an incredible hosting of the track and field event this year, and also to Michelle Goddard for her role in that as our newly appointed Special Olympics coordinator this year. But again, thanks to New Haven for hosting a tremendous event. We're also looking to, in December 12th, training staff in dispute resolution. January, we're looking for a full day transition symposium, planting seeds for growth. We'll have some coffee talks and district listening sessions with parents in February. March, we'll be focusing on eligibility goals and services. And on April, we'll be looking at augmentative communication and evidence-based practices, particularly how it supports our learners with autism. Ledge Day will be May 3rd, our Special Ed Recognition Awards on May 8th. And then next year in June 13th, 23, we'll be having our public hearing again for our annual service plan and annual budget plan. On our next item, we have our Mission Valley CAC newsletter. And I just want to also acknowledge the hard work of Andrea Chamberlain Rodriguez, who has been our secretary and CAC chairperson, who has been the editor of our newsletter. Andrea and her family are moving to San Diego this month, and they will be dearly missed. And we really want to thank Andrea for the real tremendous work she's done as the editor. She's taken it to a whole nother level of providing resources and information for our parents in this newsletter. I believe that Daisha had to leave as the chairperson of the CAC, but Daisha has been working tremendously as the CAC chairperson, partnering with the Human Relations Committee in Fremont. And I just was contacted by Anna Wang, who is the chairperson of the Family with Children Needs Special Needs Network. And she actually has asked the SELPA to partner with her in August to do a SELPA community event where first responders from the 3 cities will gather. I believe they're looking at Central Park in Fremont, and we'll invite our families to come to the event. So our students will have the opportunity to interact with our first responders and helpfully build that relationship with them. One of the things that we are particularly aware of is that our older students with autism don't always, especially those that are nonverbal, respond to verbal directions. And so we really want to make sure that as our first responders are engaging in our community, that they're aware of individuals who have special needs and how to approach them in a way that ensures their safety, as well as supporting our first responders. Any questions or comments so far on the items that we've just covered? Okay. Item number 16 was the list of the events and the committees and the meetings that we held over the course of this last year. I'd like to give a special shout out to Bobby Platt for always being so wonderfully organized in terms of then putting these presentations on the SELPA website, so they are also available there. Our SELPA priority compliance and making sure that we are seeing that students in the Mission Valley SELPA are afforded a free and appropriate public education as outlined in California and federal laws. We have our shared programs as a SELPA in terms of Special Olympics, our Transition Partnership Program, infant services. We support each other through our memorandums of understanding with Regional Center, California Children's Services, Alameda County Office of Education, and also the mental health services in the county. We coordinate through our Community Advisory Committee, Bay Area Collaborative, Alameda County SELPA Directors Association, Captain and Pent, and then through, of course, our staff training and support, with the focus most recently on alternative dispute resolution. Are there any updates that our directors would like to share at this time, maybe starting with Fremont?
Yes, so we ended our school year with 3,803 students who are receiving special education. This is roughly 11% of the district enrollment. Last week was very exciting. We saw 225 students receive their diplomas or their certificate of attendance in what were very exciting and in-person graduation ceremonies. We'd like to give a shout out to all of our high school administrators, teachers, our district maintenance team, our resource officers, and our parents for making these so meaningful and safe for all of our students. I'd like to also extend a personal thank you to our special education teachers and service providers for their care and dedication during what was an extremely challenging yet rewarding year. FUSD is currently in SIGDIS, as Karen just shared. Our first plan cycle ends September 30th, at which point we will launch into implementation of our second plan. The plans overlap, so some of the activities will be the same. We're hopeful that next year our referrals will decrease for special education. However, it doesn't appear that that's the case for this year. We've had more referrals this year than ever, most likely due to the pandemic and the school closures. Right now, our main priorities are ESY, extended school year, and projections 2022-23. We celebrated our special education students in what's pretty much my favorite day of the year, and that's the Sarah Awards, Special Education Recognition Awards, back in May. And we were so proud to see so many nominations of our stellar special educators. And finally, our department is currently planning for our annual welcome back. We do this every year in Fremont. It will be held August 11th in person at our Adult Ed Center. This is an optional but well-attended kickoff to every school year. We always look forward on that day to seeing our educators after a summer where they're able to refresh and rejuvenate and then come back for a positive school year.
Thank you, Fran. One thing, a point that Fran made that I just want to, again, kind of reiterate. Robbie was very clear, and I know as superintendents, you're also very well around the issues of declining enrollment. But because of a variety of issues, maybe possibly related to learning loss, maybe related to some of the transitions, all three departments have seen referrals for special education needs really skyrocket. And I know, at least in talking to Fran, it's really difficult making sure that we've got the staff to do the assessments. And then again, really deciding through the assessment process, is this an appropriate referral, or are the delays that we're seeing a result of this transition of coming back in and the year that we had the pandemic? So lots of tough, really important questions. And while we see that enrollment of the districts going down, we see those numbers of special ed going up, which accounts obviously then for those higher special education budgets, which, as we all know, supports that need for very strong general education programs with embedded supports and services there. Sarah, would you like to speak on behalf of New Haven?
Sure, I'm not sure I can top that. I agree with everything that Fran said. We are currently serving 1,300 special ed students, which is a little bit more, but it's probably also 11 or 12% for New Haven, which is an increase for us. And, you know, I agree with what you said, Karen, about CSACE being really social justice work. We are incredibly invested in that on the general ed side of the house, in really looking at our practices and how we support our African-American students. That is also what we are in SIGDIS for. So we continue with that work, and we have some plans for that in the fall that we're looking forward to. I think, as we all know, the lack of subs really impacted how our year went for all of us. Many people in this screen were subbing directly when that is not a normal part of our year. So I appreciate that. And, you know, getting our teachers and students back has been really successful and good and hard in ways we could and could not imagine. So I appreciate that. We started ESY yesterday, no issues so far. You know, it's just nice to see them, and having a full scope of summer school is also something that we are in our second year of, and we're happy to provide. So, you know, more hard work on the road, but also a lot of things that really get to the heart of what we believe about kids. So I've been impressed with that.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Olivia, can we please have a very detailed report on everything that's happening in Newark? Oh, sorry, just kidding. Next time. Nicole, is there anything you would like to share on behalf of Newark?
I was ready for Olivia. I was ready to.
I'm sure she could probably do it.
No, I mean, I think that I am just incredibly excited to be able to sort of collaborate and work with Olivia next year. We've done, I think, one of the sort of silver linings to stepping into this role this year is to really kind of get a really detailed understanding of what's happening in our special education department and how we can take steps to improve it. We started meeting with families towards the end of this year and really getting some of that feedback back. And so Olivia will be really prepped to sort of hit the ground running. I will say there is a little bit of, we do feel like we kind of do need to pause a little bit and reset. And I think for all of the reasons that Sarah and Fran and you've already said, which is that staffing has been a real challenge. I think even the protocols around independent study continue to be a little bit of a fuzzy item that could use some clarity from the state and the county on. And just the increase we are also seeing just a dramatic increase of special education students. And it's hard for our community to understand really why we're seeing that increase and how that's impacting funding and everything else. So while I'm really excited, I also sort of am very aware now of some of the gaps that we want to work on next year. So I'm excited to do it with Olivia.
Nicole, I think your email input probably increased by 100% by taking on that special ed load during this interim period. But I do appreciate the lens with also now as the top leadership within your district that you see the needs of the special ed department through that and collaborating forward with Olivia.
Bobby, can I just take a moment to appreciate Nicole as well, as she stepped in and has just done such a tremendous job in filling the void there and really making sure that our students and families are that we're doing our very best to meet their needs. So really appreciate your work, Nicole.
I agree with you 100%, Mark. All right. Any other information to share regarding district updates? All right. We do not have any public comment. And are there any other items or discussion from the board? Just checking the chat. Okay. Again, another acknowledgement. Great job, Nicole. Our ending quote for today is every ending is a beginning. We just don't know it yet. And as we've concluded this school year, I truly believe we have great things coming ahead for us in the coming year. Our next scheduled Regional Policy Board will be September 27th at 3:30 p.m. And unless there's any other items for us to address today, I will go ahead and move that the meeting be adjourned at 10:35.
This is Mark. So moved.